All right, Shalom. I'd like to start out with saying, Kal Halayim La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harakak Wadash Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, and my elder Heroine as well. Salutations to the occupant that are pushing the truth, sincerity, and truth, and peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. All right, I'm Kalak Shalom Yashal from the Lions of the Yashal camp. This is another Lions Den news and prophecy. And it says, Russians, Russians ready for direct conflict with NATO Putin ally claims. It's like it. And this is beautiful because these are things that we've been talking about for a while now. Um, you had the elder that did a lesson yesterday about the 300 or 3,000 uh, um, nuclear trained troops getting combat ready in Russia, and he did a lesson on that. And it was land backing off another brother in the camp, Zaryah, for his lesson that he did dealing with Russia as well. So it's prophetic. We've been speaking about it for I don't know how long. You know, this goes into Ezekiel 38, Isaiah 13, um, Ezekiel 38 with Gog and Magog, Isaiah 13 with the spirit of the Medes, and Revelation 13 dealing with the bear. And that word bear means to be enough or equipped, which all those scriptures tie in together and result to this, a direct conflict with NATO. And you also know if NATO is involved, then the United States is involved. And we've been saying from the beginning, but even before the war in Ukraine started, we said this is a proxy, right, between the West and Russia. That's all it is, man. And Yahweh Shimei Shah is going to make sure Vladimir Putin and Russia are equipped to be able to take on NATO and the United States. And you know, the title of the title of this article alone, you know, it kind of like not necessarily solidified because the word of the Lord is what put a stamp on it. But this is just signs of what's to come that's being prophesied by the ones that have been given the prophecies by Yahweh Shimei Shai. And before I get into the article, I want to get Second Ezra chapter 15 verse 1. It says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord." Right? And so the Lord is the one that is another lesson I want to do about the new song, which is the truth. So the Lord is the one that put the words in our mouths to speak the words of prophecy, man. You know? And it's all according to the will of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. As a matter of fact, let me find another scripture. Let me get this is Sirach chapter 39 verse 1. It says, "But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High shall and is occupied in the meditation thereof will seek out the wisdom of the ancient and will be occupied in prophecy." All right. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be also, man. So that's where the men of the Lord are keeping their mind at, man, all occupied on these prophecies. You know, not giving heed to Jewish fables, not blurting out false doctrine, not having any guile in their mouth, man. Speaking the 100% unadulterated truth in the name of Yahweh by Shem Shai. All right, back to Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 1. It said, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in what I'll put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true," man. So these words that are being spoken of Yahweh Shemel Shai are coming to pass, and they're faithful and true. It says his word shall not return unto him void. All right. So now going into the article, it says Russia may be prepared to engage in direct conflict with NATO member states. That includes America, the United States. It says former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev suggested on Tuesday In a post on his Telegram channel, Medvedev, who is deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, criticized the supply of weapons to Ukraine by its Western allies, mainly the United States, suggesting a war could break out over deliveries of Abrams tanks and the potential supply of long-range missiles to Ukraine. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said on Monday that the first U.S.-made Abrams tanks have arrived in Ukraine. Washington has pledged to provide Kyiv with 31 of the vehicles. The Kremlin has repeatedly accused NATO allies of becoming involved in the conflict by sending Ukraine weapons, providing its troops with training, and assisting with military intelligence. All right, so now that was the proxy way America was trying to fight the war against Russia, and trying to prevent them what Yahweh Shem Yahushua spoke about in Ezekiel 38, putting hooks into their jaws and turning them back into what? Back into the Soviet Union, and Ukraine was once a part of the Soviet Union. All right, so remember in 2016 when they annexed parts of Crimea. All right, it says it seems that Russia is being left with less and less choice but direct conflict with NATO, wrote Medvedev. It said NATO has turned into a openly fascist bloc, and said Medvedev, accusing the military alliance of being like Nazi Germany and the Axis powers, a coalition headed by Germany, Italy, and Japan in World War II. All right. So now, so back in World War II, you had what it was called the Allied and the Axis. All right. It says we are ready, although the rest, like I think in World War II, I think Russia was the Soviet Union or Russia, or was it the USSR? Whatever it was then, um, was part of the Allied, if I'm not mistaken, and they were all against Germany, um, Italy, and Japan, and maybe France. I'm not sure. All right. It says back to the article. Okay, it says we are ready, although the result will be achieved at a much greater cost to humanity than in 1945. Medvedev said. So they're ready for war, even though the casualties will be much greater and the cost of war will be much greater than World War II. This is the woe of all woes that we're heading into right now, according to the um uh according to Yahweh Shem Shai. It says the first woe passed, and behold, the second woe, the third woe, second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, man. And this all being set up by Yahweh Shem Shai. So, so going back to the article, it says Anton Grishevskinko, an advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs, said the former Russian president is threatening the whole of humanity. These threats prove these weapons will be highly effective on the battlefield. He wrote on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. Oh, you know, you know, the threat is coming from the threat from the West. Had the West not been trying to engage and get all these countries to be a part of NATO that surround Russia, and if they weren't built to kind of try to break down the Soviet Union like what it did in the 80s, then we wouldn't be having this conflict. But ultimately, it was set up by Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. You know, but propping NATO up, the United States up, to try to forcefully enter their way into Russia's back door. All right, it says it's not the first time Medvedev has insinuated that Russia could attack NATO members for providing Ukraine with assistance, he said in December 2022 that such countries could be legitimate military targets, which is true. All right, because the Lord's gonna put a thought in the mind of Putin and tell him that I'm gonna go into the land of unwalled villages, and that's in the United States. All right, it says today the main question is whether the hybrid war de facto declared on our country by NATO can be considered to be the alliance entry into war with Russia. Is it possible to view the delivery of large volume of weapons to Ukraine as an attack on Russia? He wrote at the time. The leaders of NATO countries keep unanimously squawking that their countries and their entire bloc are not at war with Russia. Medvedev continued, yet everyone is well aware that it is not the case, right? Because I mean, if two people are about to fight, right, and I'm siding with one person and I give him a gun and the other person to have him more equipped than the other person, I want that person that I'm giving a gun to win. So therefore, that means I have an alliance with them. So I'm aiding and abetting them to destroy the other person. It's the same thing in this war, but then they're trying to say, "Oh no, that's not what we're doing. We're not trying to aid." But you are aiding and abetting with them. You know, if this was a case in court and you supplied the weapons for somebody to go rob a bank, knowing that was their intentions, you would be found guilty as accessory due to the fact, not after the fact, due to the fact. So that's what Russia is saying. The top security council is saying. He's saying this is exactly what is happening. They are waging war against us by supplying weapons to Ukraine. That's what they're saying. And that's exactly what's happened. He said he noted that in light of this, the question arises whether NATO allies are legitimately military targets. According to the name rules of war, he said, the armed forces of other countries that have officially entered the war, which are allies of an enemy country, and the objects located on their territory are considered legitimate military targets. Do you have, all right, so basically, so that would make America the number one target because America has funded, if I'm not mistaken, the United States has funded the most to aid Ukraine in this war against Russia. They've done the most. They given the most money. They've given the most troops for training, and they're giving the most weaponry. So they're leading the forefront on aiding and abetting, helping Ukraine in this war against Russia. So ultimately, we've been saying for a while that this is a war between the West and Russia, and ultimately, it's gonna end up in direct conflict between the two countries. You know, and it's all been prophesied by the men of the Lord, the men of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Because why it was given unto them through the spirit of given unto us through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. This is gonna be end up being a hot war between Russia and the West, man, and ultimately it's gonna lead to the destruction of America. All right. So there you have it. The article says Russians ready for direct conflict with NATO, Putin ally claims. Lord willing, this lesson would edify the service purpose of that, and like say, Ka Halayim, La Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, Harvakak Wadash, Ma'amaf. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, and my elder Herawan as well. Salutations to the Arkham that are pushing the truth, the sincerity, and truth. And peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.